afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Ian Coates, and welcome to week 3 of Biology 1022 Pre-Health, Anatomy, and Physiology. This week we're going to be talking about the lymphatic system and the immune system. And you see there the lymphatic system tends to be the unknown step cousin to the cardiovascular system, which you can clearly see here. We're going to be looking at this aspect. And as well, lymph nodes and some illness and how our body fights disease. Well, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Get a hold of me through email. And as well, I'm going to be going straight through, okay? But please feel free. I encourage you to stop and start these videos as much as you can. If something doesn't make sense, go back and watch it again. Visit all the links that are embedded in here, the YouTube videos and the references, as well as your textbook, and you'll be right as rain. Okay, to no further ado, let's just get moving, shall we? All right, we'll see you on the other side. Overview of the immune and lymphatic system. We're concerned here about functions, okay? And what goes on here drains excessive interstitial fluid from interstitial space. And what we're talking about here, interstitial means the space in between cells. Like the cardiovascular system, you know, which we'll get there next week. We'll get introduced blood and cardiovascular system. It tends to be week 5. But you look at the cardiovascular system in its totality. The heart pumps the blood, moves the blood throughout the body, delivering and picking up things. But you have to understand that the cardiovascular system is not perfect. While the body is a marvel of technology, you know, hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Okay, it's not perfect, and there are little bits and bobs and fats and proteins there that get left behind in between cells, just hanging out. All right, and there is a whole system there called the lymphatic system that is designed to clean that area up, remove all those bits and bobs, okay, from in between cells, and get them back into the bloodstream. All right. The lymphatic system transports dietary fats and fat-soluble vitamins from the small intestine there to the bloodstream. Vitamins A, D, E, K. Recognizes and kills infectious organisms, including bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites. Recognizes and tolerates our own cells. Like you only get one common cold. You get that version of it, and then you are immune to it for the rest of your life. How does the body know? Measles, mumps, all these kinds of things. All right? You only get them once. So how does the body remember? And it does. It's able to differentiate our cells from a foreign cell, okay, through glycoproteins located there on the outer surface of the cells, which we'll get more into there when we get into blood next week, when we get into blood types, these kinds of things. Produces an immunological memory cells there that prevent infection from the same organism in the future. Very good. Lots going on here. Lots going on. So as I said, basically the lymph system is the unknown cousin to the cardiovascular that is involved in cleaning up whatever it leaves behind. Okay. You'll see there that the lymph system there is a network of vessels that assist in the circulation of fluid. Okay, and I have other shots here that I'll show you, but you'll notice there that, and it's typically designated there as green because the cardiovascular system is blood and it tends to be red. But you'll see there that there's this concentration of these lymph nodes in and around the neck, the armpits, and the groin inguinal area there, because our arms and legs and our head are more interactive with the outside world and more likely to get injured. Right, because our arms are flailing around playing basketball, our legs are running, we stub our toe, you know, we hit our head there on the, you know, underneath the sink when we're, you know, trying to fix something, right? There's the more chance for infection, okay, arms, legs, and head. And then if you get an infection in your leg, okay, it may crawl up here and try and get into the good stuff. But we have these lymph nodes here at our armpits and the inguinal area there to stop the infection from getting into the good stuff. We can live without a leg. We can't live without our internal organs. So that's what's going on here. Closely associated there with the cardiovascular system. Transports excess fluid away from interstitial space, transports fluids out of the bloodstream, transports fats, okay, and helps defend against disease. Just kind of running over the same stuff here, similar there to blood vessels. We have lymphatic vessels there that are spread throughout our body. Okay, different organs there, the immune system. Okay, tonsils, adenoids, lymph nodes, lymphatic vessels. There's your thymus. Okay, lymph nodes there, spleen, Peyer's patch, appendix, bone marrow. Funny enough, eh? It takes in interstitial fluid, and once this fluid enters the lymphatic vessel, it is now officially called lymph. The components of lymph, interstitial fluid, and blood plasma are all the same, per se. Lymph is composed of ions, vitamins, oxygen, okay, these kinds of things. Lymph eventually makes its way back to the heart and the bloodstream there, okay. Okay. The lymph fluid there that has entered the lymph capillaries. This is what we officially call lymph. So before it enters these capillaries, okay, which have a lot of similarity there to veins, which we'll show you again. Okay, not arteries, to veins. The tissue fluid originates there from the plasma, contains water and dissolved substances, contains smaller proteins there, which create a colloid osmotic pressure. The cardiovascular system, as I said there earlier, is not perfect. It's actually pretty leaky. Okay, if you look at varicose veins, okay, in the lower leg, those are just leaky veins on their way back up to the heart. Okay, from capillary exchange, the circulatory system loses about 4 liters of fluid each day. 4 liters of fluid just get kind of left behind in between cells. And to collect and recycle this fluid, the body uses a secondary circulatory system called the lymph system. The fluid there in between cells, interstitial fluid. Once this fluid enters the lymphatic vessels, it's called lymph. Ultimately, the lymph does return to the bloodstream. Okay, everything goes back, gets dumped back into the bloodstream, but it does take a while. Okay, these lymphatic capillaries, you'll see that, I know we haven't done cardiovascular, but I'm sure you guys have an idea of it. The whole idea, there's the central heart. The heart pumps the blood, and it goes around the body, dropping off oxygen, picking up carbon dioxide, all the other things there that it does, and then eventually returns to the heart. So it's kind of like a circle. It's a closed system. Okay, where everything is kind of moving in the same direction. Okay, it's coming out of the heart, coming out of the aorta. It's kind of in a, let's call it clockwise, right? But you'll see there that the lymph system, it has dead ends. It has these dead ends. It's not a circulatory system per se, okay? But wherever you find the cardiovascular system, you will find lymph vessels, and you'll see how they go. These terminal ends there, they just go, and they're always kind of in between the cardiovascular system. And these ends here, you'll see that there's little openings, okay? And it anchors itself in there in between cells, and the whole idea there is that when the fluid pressure, there's too much fluid pressure building up in between cells, what happens here is these lymph vessels open. Okay, and the fluid that's in here comes on in, and da-ding, it now is called officially lymph. Okay, microscopic closed-end tubes, all within the interstitial space of most fluid. Okay, increasing hydrostatic pressure within interstitial spaces forces tissue fluid into the lymphatic capillaries. So when there's a buildup of fluid interstitially, these guys open up. Okay, resistant fluid is now lymph. This process prevents accumulation of excess tissue fluid or edema. You've seen elderly people there with swollen feet. They have to wear specialized socks there to keep those ankles from swelling. There's your edema right there, okay? Lymph flow from interstitial tissue. Notice the closed end of the capillary, all right? And this is what's going on here. The lymph flows in okay, because the pressure, the hydrostatic pressure is too high out here, so it forces the lymph there to flow in, and then the flow of lymph out that way. Nothing too crazy there. Nice slide. Blood and lymphatic vessels there, hydrostatic and osmotic pressure. Okay, so here we have an artery, blood flowing this way. Okay, and then it delivers its oxygen, as you can see here, and then it's on its way back to the heart. Movement of fluid into and out of capillaries is due to hydrostatic and osmotic pressure. Lymphatic vessel collects the leftover fluid, and you'll see there more fluid exits the capillaries than enters. This is what we're talking about when we're talking the cardiovascular system. Okay, good. The lymph vessels are composed of 3 layers. There's the endothelial lining, the inside. Okay, there's smooth muscle. You remember smooth muscle there from last week? It's very different. We don't have control over it. It's not strong, okay, but it can last a long time. So there is smooth muscle located within these. And you'll see that the inside there, connective tissue. That's the outside there. Large vessels there, smooth muscle leads to lymph nodes and then to larger lymphatic trunk, which we'll get into there in a little bit. But you'll see there the movement of the lymph. There's no heart pumping the lymph as is the case there when you're talking about blood and the cardiovascular. And you'll see there, very similar to veins, which we'll get into there next week, you'll see that there are these valves and direction of lymph flow. It's going up, right? Let's say this is from the feet all the way up to the chest. You'll see there that only through movement you kind of squish that lymph up, and then the valve closes, and then you move some more and squish, 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 and it goes all the way up until it's returned back into the cardiovascular system. Okay, so through action of skeletal muscles, the very active breathing, okay, gets things moving, right? And then there are these valves in these lymphatic vessels. Very good. Lymph nodes contain immune cells that recognize and fight infections, some toxins, and dead cells carried in the lymph. And you'll see what's going on here. There is an afferent entry and then an efferent exit. Okay, so afferent means at home. You'll hear this word again, okay, when we're talking about the kidney, when we're talking about nerve cells. Afferent means coming in. I say at home. Efferent means exit, leaving. You'll hear those two words throughout the duration of the course for sure. Located in larger numbers in area where microorganisms can enter the body, such as ear, mouth, lungs, urogenital region, digestive tract, and mammary glands. Okay, so as we said there, the head, the arms, the legs there, they have the potential there for more infection. So that's where you'll see a concentration of lymph nodes in the groin area, inguinal, under the armpits, and the neck. Okay. Collecting ducts. You may think that this is kind of a strange one here, but this is 100% true. You'll see there that this individual, all right, I'll just move this around, and this is why I utilize it in this view. I don't go to slide view because I like to play with the slide itself there and modify it as need be. And I encourage you guys to do that however you so choose. There is the thoracic duct, okay, that drains the lymph from the rest of the body, and then there's the right lymphatic duct, which drains lymph from only the upper right side. So you'll see there's the right lymphatic duct right in here. All the lymph that is collected in this area here is put back in the right lymphatic duct. Okay, all of the lymph that's collected in this area, all the rest, so basically 3/4 there, the entire left side and the bottom right hand side, is returned through the thoracic duct located here. Okay, so now all the lymph there, all the fluid, and as we said there earlier, there's 4 liters of fluid that gets left behind on a daily basis by the cardiovascular system. So that 4 liters is through movement is coming up coming up, and it's returned back at the thoracic duct here. For the right quadrant here, it's in the right lymphatic duct. Good. This one here, the whole idea there that interstitial fluid enters the lymph system through the capillaries. And you'll notice there the capillaries are the smallest, they're microscopic, okay? That's where the lymph enters in, and then it's kind of like working your way back up a river. The river gets bigger and bigger. There's your lymphatic vessel, lymph node, the lymphatic trunk, and you'll see there that the vessels are getting bigger and bigger, right? And then eventually there to the subclavian vein, all right? And to the thoracic duct, okay, and then for the right quadrant there, it's the right lymphatic duct. All right. Edema, fluid accumulates in the interstitial fluid and can cause swelling. And you have a look. It's quite substantial. It can be. Okay. Causes of fluid buildup, increased capillary hydrostatic pressure, water pressure, kidneys not functioning properly, valves failure. Okay, high pressure in the veins, lack of skeletal muscle contraction, you're not moving enough, right? Clients that are bedridden, okay? Some medications can do this as well, decrease plasma proteins and block lymphatic ducts. So, there you go. There's edema in a nutshell. Now, where is that coffee? The anatomy of the lymph system, okay, you've got the bone marrow. Sorry, I'm just getting my coffee. Oh, beautiful coffee. The bone marrow, inside of the bones there, contains those hematopoietic stem cells. Heme, okay, making stem cells there that differentiate into red and white blood cells, as well as platelets. B cells undergo maturation process. Welcome to the thymus, okay, which contains thymocytes, immature T cells. T cells, these are the ones there that are phagocytic. They chomp, they're going to go after bacteria and foreign cells there. We'll get more into those there as the presentation goes on. Okay, but the thymus contains the thymocytes, immature T cells that undergo a maturation process to eliminate cells that recognize self-antigens. Oh, antigens. These are these glycoproteins, these proteins there that stick outside on a cell membrane. Okay, and that is how we tell one of our cells from a foreign cell, because our cells will have certain glycoproteins that need to be recognized. Foreign cells will be missing those particular glycoproteins, those antigens, and if they're missing those or they have different ones there, then all of a sudden the alarm bells go off, right? And then we've got a foreign invader. Mature B and T cells that are tolerant of self-antigens migrate to the lymph nodes and react only to specific infections that match their specific receptors. Okay? And you'll have a look here. You'll see that the thymus there is much bigger, okay, in children. When you're talking about immune system there, children do not have an immune system basically when they're born, so much bigger there in children. And that's what we're saying right here. The thymus, soft bilobed organ located there within the mediastinum, decreases in size after puberty because through interaction and living our lives, we gain immunity. And if you're gaining immunity, then you don't really need the thymus to be that big. And you'll see here, there's the thymus in a fetus, thymus there in adult. Quite the difference. Function, immature T cells migrate from the bone marrow there to the thymus via the blood, which is the site there of maturation of the T cells, which will eventually leave the thymus and provide immunity. Okay, the epithelial cells secrete a hormone called thymosin, which stimulates the maturation of T cells after they leave the thymus and migrate to other lymphatic tissues. Okay, those lymph nodes in particular. Lymphocyte origins here. All right, and you see that this is just the whole process of T-cell maturation. And you could just zoom in. I'm not going to do anything crazy here, but there's number one. So stem cells in the red bone marrow give rise to lymphocyte precursors. Okay. Here's your red bone marrow. Sorry, I'll just zoom out a little bit there. There's your red bone marrow. Okay. And there are your lymphocyte precursors. Okay. And some lymphocyte precursors are processed in the thymus to become T cells. All right, so these are your lymphocyte precursors there, and these are B cells. These are going to be T cells here. The T cells there, they go to the thymus there to mature. Okay, some lymphocyte precursors are processed within the bone marrow to become B cells, and these B cells there go directly there to the lymph nodes. Both T cells and B cells are transported through the blood to lymphatic organs such as lymph nodes. Okay, and lymphatic ducts and the spleen. So this is the kind of the life cycle there, and we'll get more into B and T's as we get on in the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. The spleen. This one here is an interesting organ. Okay. The whole idea there is that there are basically two kinds of cells. There's what we call red pulp and white pulp. Okay, both do different things here. The red pulp there contains macrophages, okay, phagocytic, chomp chomp, red blood cells and platelets. It's located on the breakdown of old red blood cells. So basically the spleen is kind of an RBC sponge, okay, and you actually don't need it. You know, if you injure this in a car accident, they can remove it, okay, and your liver actually picks up the slack. Okay, the white pulp, this one here contains the lymphocytes, macrophages, and dendritic cells. These are all involved in immunity and adaptive immunity, acquired immunity. Okay, so the white pulp is involved in immunological function. The red pulp there is more for RBC and breakdown there of old RBC cells. Okay, recycling them. The lymphatic nodules, similar there to lymph nodes, except not surrounded by a capsule. Example, tonsils, adenoids, Peyer's patch, located around small intestines there. Perfect. Getting on into the immune system. Okay, there are a couple ways of looking at this, and there's what we call the innate, or you'll hear it referred to non-specific immunity. Okay, and the innate or non-specific, it doesn't matter if there's a foreign bug in our body, this one here is going to kick in regardless of it. Okay, but then there is also called the specific immunity or adaptive immunity. That one there is regulated and it follows a different path. Okay, both of them there recognize and kill infectious organisms, bacteria, virus, fungi, and parasites. And recognizes and tolerates our own cells as well as food and environmental substances. You eat a banana, that's a foreign cell. Right? How do we know that that's a good one? Your body knows. Okay? Produces an immunological memory cells that prevent infection from the same organism in the future. Okay? That's your specific or adaptive. Okay? First of all, identify what a pathogen is. Okay? A pathogen is anything there is a disease-causing agent. Okay, spores, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, these kinds of things. Okay, pathogen just means an organism there that's going to cause a disease. Okay, non-specific defenses, general non-specific defenses, protects against many pathogens, made of several defenses, are activated immediately upon a pathogen attack. All right, adaptive or specific defenses. Here we're talking about immunity, okay, more specific, carried out by lymphocytes, is only activated after exposure to a specific pathogen, and there is definitely memory involved. And you look at that, it's just, it blows my mind that our cells, which are just a collection of atoms, are able there to create memory and can go back and go, yep, we've got immunity to this bug, go get them. Or, oh, we don't have immunity for this bug, we need to make it. It's incredible, it really is. Just a shot here of what's going on there with the immunity. There's your innate, non-specific, and the first one there, first barrier, skin, stomach acid. Your skin, non-specific, keeps out bugs, viruses, keeps them all out. Stomach acid, doesn't matter. You eat a sandwich that's covered in bacteria. There's a reason why the stomach acid is there, is to kill anything there before it makes it into the small intestine, for the most part. Second barrier of the innate, non-specific. Okay? If an infection occurs of some kind, the whole idea there of the inflammatory response. Something, your skin becomes red and irritated and itchy and inflamed. That just means there that there's more bugs, more cells there than there should be. That's why a cut, when it gets infected, it becomes raised and red and sore, because there's more going on than there should be. All right? Heat, your temperature increases. And there's a reason why your temperature increases, because bugs don't like it. Phagocytic activity here. Think of Pac-Man, chomp chomp, eating of bugs, bacteria. And when I say bugs, I'm not talking entomology. I'm not talking insects. Okay, I'm kind of using it as a slang for bacteria and any type of pathogen that's around. Okay. So just a recap here: innate, non-specific, 24/7. Don't even know what's happening. It's always going on in the background. Okay. Specific immunity, you will tend to know that it's happening. Okay, because something is going on. All right, and pus, swelling, pain. There is what we call cell-mediated response. T cells from the thymus, both helper and cytotoxic. These ones here are involved. Then we have what's called the humoral response, B cells from the bone marrow. And there's a great little overview. I recommend have a look at it. It's mint. All right. Now let's just go through all these things here. The innate immune response, first barrier of defense, physical barrier. Skin provides protection from foreign invaders in several ways. Mucous membranes are found in the digestive system and respiratory tract. Mucus, yep, it's gross, but it's one of the best defenses we have. You take a look at our lungs. They are dark, warm, and moist. Oh my gosh, you couldn't ask for anything better for a bacteria. All right, but we breathe in 500,000 bacteria with every single breath, and those half a million bacteria, they go into our lungs, and all of a sudden they get stuck in the mucus. All right, and then we have cilia, which are little hairs that kind of look like, seaweed at the bottom of the ocean when it's in waves and the tidal and it's moving back and forth. It seems to be pushing. Well, that's what the cilia does. Okay, and it pushes this mucus up, okay, and eventually out our trachea, and then, and that's the point. Get it out. And hey, it's going to get, if you thought that was gross, it's going to get worse. Okay, welcome to the health sciences. The body is an amazing piece of technology, but it's also pretty gross, pretty stinky, pretty smelly. We'll get there. Acidity of the stomach, we talked about that. Low pH definitely will kill more bugs, and there are specialized immune cells throughout the layer of the skin, dendritic cells, and that are just lying in between the layers of skin, just waiting for any invaders there to come and destroy them. Okay? The skin provides chemical defense as well as physical defense. There's oil glands, aka sebaceous glands, make the skin surface very acidic, okay, which isn't good for bacteria, okay. Sweat contains the enzyme lysozyme, also found in your tears. This is a natural antibiotic, okay. Lysozyme, you might see that one again, okay. Still going on about the immune here, the innate immune response. The lining of the digestive and respiratory tracts provide potential routes for entry for microbes. There's your lysozyme, hydrochloric acid, digestive enzymes there, the urinary, the digestive tract, sticky mucus, as we just spoke about, resident bacteria, normal flora in our digestive tract helps prevent infection. Normal flora, here you're talking about the bacteria. We have more bacteria in our large intestine than we have cells in our whole body. And these bacteria, it's a symbiotic relationship. We eat food, they take some of the food, and in return they provide us with lots of beneficial returns. Okay, vitamin K as well. They cover the entire surface of the large intestine, not allowing bad bugs to get in there. And that's one of the trouble there. You see, when you take antibiotics, yeah, you're killing the bugs that have gotten into your body, but you're also killing all the bugs there of your large intestine, the good bugs in your mouth and all this. And if you're killing those bugs and leaving those walls of the intestine, large intestine, open, then bad bugs can get in there. So you just got to be careful, okay? And you, honestly, the best thing you could do, one of the best things you could do is have a cup of yogurt every single day. Every single day, a little bit of yogurt maintains that normal flora. You'll feel like $1,000,000. Secondary barrier of defense, when a pathogen actually crosses the boundaries of the skin, okay, or mucous membranes, and an infection actually occurs, then cellular and chemical defenses come into play. Getting into our first line of defense, nothing gets through the skin, the mucus, the lysozyme, it's non-specific. There's no infection. It's actually preventing an infection. But second barrier of defense, now it looks like one of those bugs is broken through our first line. So we actually have, we're at war now. Okay, an infection has occurred. The cells there, the cells that kill invading microbes, proteins that kill invading microbes, the inflammatory response, and temperature response. All good stuff. So you see, there's lots of good links in here. Cells can either release toxic chemicals, release cytokines, or engulf the foreign pathogens there by phagocytosis. Beautiful words, I love it. Phagocytosis, chomp chomp Pac-Man, cytokines. These are chemicals there that are released. We'll get there. We'll get there. And you'll see we've got basophils, neutrophils, eosinophils, monocytes. They can evolve into dendritic cells or macrophages, chomp chomp Pac-Man. Okay, you've got the lymphoid stem cells here. Here you've got your natural killer cells. There's your T and Bs, and then your Bs are related there to your plasma cells. So that's the whole thing, okay, coming from these hemocytoblasts up here, okay. Neutrophils, the most numerous, okay, so when an infection happens, these guys here are the first responders. Okay, they produce a chemical involved in the inflammatory response, such as a histamine. Okay, vasodilators, reactive oxygen species, cytokines there. So histamine, if somebody there is allergic to pollen or whatever, and their nose starts to flare up, redness, soreness, there's your inflammatory response. Okay, and these histamines there, more associated there with mast cells, M-A-S-T, which we'll see in a little bit. Okay, but these histamines there, they cause this redness and soreness, right? And what do you take there? People who are allergic to, pollen and these, they take antihistamines, right? Which then calms everything down. What is chemotaxis? The process by which damaged infected cells secrete signaling molecules to attract other immune cells. So that's the whole process. Okay? This chemotaxis is to signal other cells. Hey, we've got trouble. Phagocytosis, Pac-Man, chomp chomp. Basophils. The least common type of white blood cell releases histamine and several cytokines, plays a role in allergic reactions and parasitic infections. Eosinophils there involved in parasitic infections such as worms produce many chemicals, again including histamine that is involved in allergies, asthma, and inflammation. Mast cells. I know you've seen histamine throughout all these ones here, but this is the one there that has, it's all about histamine. Primarily involved in allergic reactions and anaphylaxis. If you haven't heard of anaphylaxis, this is a bad one. Some people there, they react so badly to a particular chemical or, dog hair, cat hair, bee sting, that what'll happen is there'll be just so much swelling. Okay, and and if you have swelling around the neck, okay, that could literally stop you from breathing, right? So it's pretty serious. Okay, if you need an EpiPen, you carry it with you for the rest of your life. These guys here primarily involved in allergic reactions, anaphylaxis by releasing histamine if interaction there with the immunoglobulins E, okay, IgE as we call it, antibodies occur, important role in wound healing, prevalent in tissues near openings to the body such as mouth, nose, skin, lungs, and GI tract, for sure, right, involved in allergic reactions. Monocytes. Okay, these migrate into tissues and differentiate into macrophages and dendritic cells. And there's a little shot there on histamine. Causes blood vessels to dilate, increasing permeability, which allows white blood cells to go through blood vessel walls to migrate to the site of infection. So what do you mean? Some of these cells there can go right through blood vessels to get to where they need to go faster? Yes, they can, and that is through the actions of histamines. Okay, they dilate the blood vessels, increase their volume, right? So they, you remember the smooth muscle, right? Because of that smooth muscle located in the arterial walls of the blood vessels, okay, we can increase the diameter, the amount of blood flow if needed. Okay, and what this does is it allows for greater permeability of white blood cells to move where they need to go. If they need to get somewhere fast, they can get there very fast. Okay, dendritic cells. These ones here are kind of easy to spot there. They have these tentacles there that kind of reach out. Okay, they get located in the skin, lungs, GI tract. Important antigen presenting cell. We'll get there, APC. What it'll do is it'll chomp some cell, and then it'll digest that cell and kind of display it on its own cell membrane in order to tell other cells, hey, we've got trouble here. And that's what we call an antigen presenting cell, APC. We'll get there. Macrophages, important antigen presenting cells. Okay, phagocytic, they secrete toxic chemicals there that kill microbes. They secrete cytokines. Again, there's your little talk about cytokines there and chemicals involved in inflammatory response. Natural killer cells specifically kill virus-infected cells in cancer using perforin. Kill cells optimized there with opsonized there with antibodies and can produce memory cells. So perforin, this is just a chemical there that's used there just to break bacterial walls and lyse them. I'll show you guys these here. Non-cellular response there of the secondary line of defense, perforin, complement proteins, interferon, inflammation, and fever. Perforin. Here we're dealing with the innate immune response, okay? And you'll see what's going on here. There is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as a result, killer cells bind to the target. Okay, that's what we've got there for number 1. And you'll see what's going on here in the membrane there of the particular cell. And these perforin molecules, you'll see what happens. They create these holes. All right, we'll show you them. As a result of binding, these killer cells, perforin-containing granules fuse with the plasma membrane. Granules disgorge their perforin by exocytosis into a small pocket of intracellular space between killer cells and its target. On exposure to calcium in this space, individual perforin molecules change from spherical to cylindrical shape. And remodeled perforin molecules bind to target cell membranes and insert into it individual perforin molecule groups together like staves in a barrel to form pores. Pores admit salt and water, causing target cells to swell and burst. So that's what's going on here, right? You're just creating holes in the target cell, and then this allows contents to move in and out, generally move in to the point where the cell swells up and bursts. That's what's going on there. And just a shot here, so there's your killer cell, and you'll see there granules containing the perforin molecule, and then they move on over there to the target cell, and you'll see what goes on. It makes these holes in the target cell, water and salt come in, and boom. All right, there's one. The next type of innate immune response is what we call complement proteins here. The complement system consists of approximately 20 different proteins there that circulate freely in the plasma, made by the liver, in an inactive state until they encounter either a fungal or bacterial cell wall. They inactivate to form a membrane attack complex. And honestly, it's like a fighter squadron. And they're all going towards this cell or fungi, right? They activate to form a membrane attack complex that forms a pore opening in the foreign cell's membrane, causing water to rush in and burst the cell. It's kind of the same thing here. Complement is also triggered there by antibodies. It facilitates phagocytosis, complementing the neutrophil and macrophages, who are most likely already on the scene there. So it kind of does the same thing. Okay, so here's your perforin, and there's your complement. Okay, interferon. Okay, produced in cells infected by viruses or bacteria toxin. So this is already created. These are interferons are created there by a cell that's already done. Okay, it's already been infected, and this is how it's going to pass on its message to other cells to, hey, I'm infected, don't get infected, this is what I got. The neighboring, not yet infected cells are warned by interferons and therefore produce proteins that inhibit viral replication. So, let's have a look here. And I'll just zoom on over. Now again, pause this as you need to. This can be pretty heavy stuff here. So you got the virus enters the cell, okay? This is the host cell, there's the virus. And then the virus starts to replicate, as viruses do, right? They completely commandeer the cell. So once this was your cell, it is not your cell anymore. Okay, the virus releases, virus-invaded cell releases interferons, and this is kind of a last-ditch effort. This cell is going to die anyway, so the interferons then they travel, okay, onto another cell that is uninvaded or unaffected, okay, and creates these inactive virus-blocking enzymes there and activates them, so that therefore when the virus does come, the viral entry activates these virus-blocking enzymes, so therefore this cell survives and the virus cannot enter. So these interferons there, it's just chemicals there that are telling another cell, hey, this is what I got, protect yourself. Okay? Responsible for making you feel bad when you're sick. They basically destroy all surrounding tissue because they cannot do protein synthesis. Okay, so good stuff. I love it. Number 4, inflammation. Okay, this is what's going on. We've kind of alluded to this there, that the when your skin or an area or cut or whatever it is inflamed, that just means that there's more going on than there should be, right? And you know, have a look here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, a break in the skin introduces bacteria. Okay, that's what's going on here. Okay, activated mast cells there, they release the histamine. Okay, and you'll remember there what histamine does. It opens up the blood vessels and allows other cells there to creep through and to get through. You can see what's going on here. These neutrophils sticking there to the walls, and then they're able to move through and start doing their damage. Okay, histamine and cytokines dilate local blood vessels, increase their permeability. Cytokines also make the blood vessel wall sticky, causing neutrophils there to attach. These neutrophils are flowing through the blood, but because the walls become sticky because of the cytokines and the histamine, neutrophils stick and then go right through. These chemokines attract neutrophils, which pass between cells of the blood vessel walls and migrate there to the infection site, and these neutrophils engulf the pathogens and destroy them. Welcome to it. That's the inflammation. And once all the bacteria are gone, then everything here dissipates and it goes back to normal. The inflammation is dissipated. Okay? There's just more on that there. We just read the whole thing. You guys could have a look at that. Okay. Fever. This one here may make you question how you tackle, disease when you get a fever. Now, please, I recommend you please consult a physician before doing anything your silly teacher suggests. But the whole idea there that if it's a natural process when your temperature goes up, should you really be taking that Tylenol or to drop your temperature? Well, yes, just with knowledge comes power. When macrophages attack, they send a signal there to the hypothalamus there to raise the body temperature, okay, causing fever. Now, the whole point of causing a fever is bacteria don't like the increase in temperature. They do not like it, okay? And as well, an increase in temperature gets things hopping and moving around the body. So things are moving faster because we've got an infection. We better be moving fast, right? Some pathogens there can secrete toxins that act as pyrogens, triggering the brain to increase body temperature. A fever curbs microbial growth, but it can be dangerous if the body temperature gets too high, especially in kids. Okay? A fever up to 39 degrees is beneficial. A fever of 40 should be treated with antipyretics. Okay? Tylenol, Panadol, okay, ibuprofen. A fever over 42, you better be in emerge already. Okay, so just to let you know, watch your temperature. A fever up to 39, you shouldn't be taking any Tylenol to drop that temperature. You should be okay. But anything 40 and above, you better be on it like a duck on a June bug, as my grandmother would say. All right? Perfect. Now, that was all the innate. Innate. Non-specific, doesn't matter. Whatever bug got in here, you're going to get. You're going to get exposed to these guys here depending upon whether you get inside the skin or not. Now, what we're talking about is the adaptive immune response. This one here, you have to be infected in order to gain exposure. And once you have exposure, and if you survive, then now you have immunity. So cells involved in the adaptive immune response, we've got B cells, helper Ts, cytotoxic Ts, and regulatory Ts. And there's a nice little video there for a nice little link there for you all there to have a look. Just, and again, we're taking a flat stone and throwing it against flat water. Really. You know what I mean? There's hundreds of PhDs that are written on this slide alone. We're just going through and getting a good grasp, and then we're moving on. B cells, they contain specific receptors there for specific antigens. You will remember these antigens are these glycoprotein branched chains. And they're not long, they're just kind of, think of it as a matchstick. Okay? And it's just sticking out the side of a membrane of a cell. Now, that matchstick has a particular sequence that is geared to you and you only. Okay? And if there is a sequence of glycoprotein or an antigen on a cell that your body does not recognize, foreign invader. We need to get rid of this, right? So now we're into phagocytic there when the antigen matches a receptor. Antigen presenting cells, that's where a cell there will eat a bacteria cell and then display its contents on the cell membrane for other cells to take notice. Produces cytokines, differentiates into plasma memory cells. When activated, can produce memory cells for sure. Helper T cells can only respond to antigen presented by APCs. Okay, that's these guys here. Macrophage dendritic cells or B cells produce cytokines that activate B cells, cytotoxic T cells, macrophages, dendritic cells, and killer cells. Can produce memory cells. So there's a lot going on here, okay? Cytotoxic T cells directly kill virus-infected cells, cancer cells, and transplant tissue. There's lots of work going on with these as far as cancer goes, okay, where we remove or we take some of your T cell, your cytotoxic T cells, and we put them in a petri dish and we turn them into these ferocious beasts, and then we inject them back into you. And they'll target cancer cells. And there's they've been talking about this for a while, and I haven't heard anything there in the past couple of years about it, but I do know that these were on the forefront of cancer treatment. I do not know, but I think that they're still on the way. These guys here can produce memory cells. There's a nice little link for you. Regulatory T cells inhibit the immune response. Okay. Now, just to get into what an antigen is, I know I've been kind of alluding to it and trying to, been waiting for this slide there for a bit. When a foreign pathogen, bacteria, virus, fungi, or parasite, enters the body, the immune system detects foreign proteins on the surface of the pathogen. These are called antigens. Can also be called peptides, lipoproteins, glycoproteins, even carbohydrates, okay? T and B cells recognize one specific antigen and are activated upon binding to their target antigen. So you'll see what's going on here. Remember the antigen presenting cells, okay? You see what's going on here. This is a dendritic cell. Okay, it's got these tentacles there that we saw. What is that? Slide 39. Where'd they go? Yes, there they are. There's your dendritic cells right there, right? Okay. So that was 39. See how this format kind of works here? I like it. So you see there's your dendritic cell. Okay. A phagocyte eats a bacteria. Chomp, chomp. And then parts of the bacteria go to the surface of the phagocyte. So basically it's kind of in a morbid way, but you eat this bacteria, it gets digested, and then its bits and parts are displayed on the outside of the cell surface of the dendritic cell. And the phagocyte presents the antigen to a helper T cell. Hey, there you go, right? And then the helper T cells are now activated. You see this one, and now they're looking for these guys here because they know they're around. Okay, perfect. Moving on into the adaptive immune response there, we've got MHC1 proteins as well. There's more about your antigen presenting cells. MHC1 protein, what we call major histocompatibility complex, is found on all cells in the body and allows the immune system to recognize and not destroy our own cells. Okay, APCs are all phagocytic cells, macrophage, dendritic B cells, which engulf and destroy pathogens by presenting the pathogen-associated antigen with the help of what we call MHC2 proteins on their cell surface, and it is these antigens that then activate the T cells, as what's going on in here. Okay. The APC, just the whole process of what's going on here. I encourage you there to have a look at this. Steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you'll see there's your particular pathogen, okay, bacteria. Just zooming in with its antigens on the side. It gets engulfed, okay. Engulfed microbe is digested into fragments. Then it's digested. Okay, and then you have these MHC2 molecules are synthesized and packaged into vesicles. And what happens there, these molecules, in combination with the antigen fragments, okay, they're put together, and you'll see what's going on. They fuse together, and then they are presented on the outside. So it's how these digested bacteria, the fragments, are presented on the outside of the cell. It's with these MHC2 proteins. They're produced here and then displayed on there. Okay, and now that the APCs have done their job, it's time to call in the specific immunity, because now these guys here, there is a job to be done. This guy here digested it, broke it up, displayed it. Now it needs help from other cells because it's trying to relay a message, right? Okay. And just a quick reminder there, the T cells destroy the body's own cells that have themselves been taken over by viruses or become cancerous. So T cells destroy the body's own cells that have become infected. B cells produce antibodies that are used to attack invading bacteria, viruses, and toxins. Okay, so there's your specific immunity. Okay, cell-mediated response and humoral response. We're getting into that right now. So just to recap, T cells, B cells. Lymphocytes are white blood cells that are critical to the specific immune response. Specific. Okay, remember there, the previous was non-specific. Okay, now we're into specific. T cells, they originate in the bone marrow. We saw that from that slide there earlier, but migrate there to the thymus for maturation. Okay, recognize microorganisms and viruses by their specific antigens on their surface. Yes, yes, yes. Help activate T cells, cause T cell proliferation. Other T cells, okay, cause T cell proliferation, the same thing. Activate cytotoxic T cells, natural killers. Stimulate leukocyte production, stimulate B cells to mature, activate macrophages, secrete interferons, lymphokines, recognize microorganisms and viruses by the specific antigens on their surface by way of APCs. So there's lots going on here that these T cells do. Okay, natural killers. Okay, these are the also called cytotoxic T cells. Okay, do not directly attack pathogens. They destroy infected host cells. Remember, they're T cells. They don't really go after bacteria. They kill infected our cells that have been infected. Infected host cells send out signals for destruction called interferons. Types of cells there. T cell response is also the cell-mediated response. I'm not too interested in CD4 helper T cells, CD8 and all that, but regulatory T cells inhibit B cells and T cells there. The adaptive immune response, okay, when these antigen-presenting cells process the foreign antigens to trigger the cell-mediated response, the activated helper T cell stimulates the proliferation of cytotoxic T cells for that specific antigen. Okay, I'll read that one again. The activated helper T cell stimulates the proliferation of cytotoxic T cells for that specific antigen. It's all about these antigen-presenting cells, right? Cytotoxic T cells kill the cells that are infected, our cells displaying the antigen. Oh, sorry. And activated cells continue to proliferate and clone until the infection is completely killed. Okay. Just the whole idea of cell-mediated, what's going on here. We can zoom in. All right. So there's your 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So viral proteins are degraded into fragments that act as antigens, right? Through the MHC2, which you can see right there, and the MHC1. Okay, when we're talking about these guys here, all right, the antigens are displayed on the cell surface bound to the class of MHC1 proteins. Okay, and when we get into this here, I'm not going to go too heavy into these because it does get pretty specific. All right, and just as long as you're familiar there with the differences between specific and non-specific, and have some information, because you know what I mean, the test is going to be a multiple choice, and I'm not going to want to go into this kind of seriousness, okay, because it doesn't, where you guys are going, it doesn't really require it. Okay, do I encourage you guys to go further than this? Absolutely, but for the time being, where we're at, okay, this just gives you a diagrammatic situation of what's going on. All right, so this is cytotoxic T cell activation. You know, the adaptive immune response, when we're talking the humoral lymphocytes, are white blood cells, as you remember, that are critical to the specific immune response. B cells, they complete their maturation in the bone marrow, as you remember there from that slide. When an antigen is encountered, they'll differentiate into different plasma cells and then secrete antibodies. That's the difference here. These antibodies, these are these memory cells. Okay? They coat the antigen and mark the cell bearing that antigen for destruction. They'll differentiate into plasma cells, produce antibodies. This is where we get into the humoral immune response. When an antigen is encountered, they differentiate immediately into plasma cells, and then they'll secrete these antibodies there. These killer bees, B cells that differentiate into plasma cells when activated by an infectious organism, and then they secrete these antibodies, okay, specific for that infection only. Okay, B cell response is also called the humoral immune response. B cells and antibodies fight any extracellular material, okay, produced there by bacteria. Okay. These activated B cells can bind to free, unprocessed antigens, and antigen particles enter the B cell by endocytosis. You'll remember, it's going into the cell, not exo, endo. This is humoral, since it is not inside the cell. Okay. Antigens are then processed and placed on the surface complex there with these MHC2 proteins. Recall the B cells are also antigen-presenting cells. And there's a nice, beautiful shot of what's happening. Okay, there, follow it along, MHC2. Okay, and you'll see there the memory cells, the plasma cells, which then produce these antibodies that are specific for this one here. Okay. Memory cells, as a result of the first infection, okay, a large clone of lymphocytes that can recognize a pathogen remain B cells and T cells, memory cells. The secondary immune response is more effective response when the pathogen is encountered again. Most of the time, you will not even know that your immune system is fighting a pathogen that is already recognized. Isn't that amazing? You might feel a little sluggish, but your body is hard at work. When we're talking about the immune response here are these antibodies. And you know, they tend to represent them as like Y-shaped, because they are, right? You've got, well, you can see the Y here and the Y here. Antibodies are immunoglobulins that identify and neutralize infectious organisms. And you'll see that there's an antibody, okay? And you can see what's going on here. Inflammation and chemotaxis. Okay, agglutination and neutralization. Agglutination, that just means creating jam, this glue. And you know, if you think if you put somebody else's blood type into your body, your immunoglobulins are just going to go to that. They're going to sense there that this is foreign, this is not from us, and they're going to just drag it right down so it doesn't go anywhere. It turns that blood into jam. It's quite a distressing issue there that we'll get more into when we get into blood next week. You'll see here phagocytosis, okay, and as well we've got cytotoxicity. Okay, there's your perforin, lysis, you know, destroying the cell, activation, complement, and lots going on there. Okay. It's like taking a picture and posting a wanted sign, right? Now that the body will recognize these invaders for a later date. Memory. It's got them it's got a picture of it, and it will remember that for the rest of your life. Okay? Types of adaptive immunity there. You guys can have a look at these there, have a read. It's all good stuff. Okay? Naturally, type of immunity there. Naturally acquired active immunity, acquired after an infection. Okay? Naturally acquired passive immunity, acquired through transfer of antibodies from mom to baby. Artificially acquired active immunity, acquired through vaccination, transfer of antigens into the body. Okay? And artificially acquired passive immunity, acquired by transfer of antibodies into the body by injection. Okay, which provides temporary immunity to the organism specifically related. So there's lots going on here, and it's quite heavy for this week there, but we're just getting started actually. Autoimmune diseases. An autoimmune disease is when the immune system attacks its own tissue. During development, our B cells and T cells go through a process called negative selection, self-tolerance, where any receptors that recognize self-proteins should be eliminated. So any type of B or T cell that goes after our own cells needs to get the chomp, get it out of here. We don't want our military going after its own people, right? But people there with autoimmune diseases, they have these B and T cell receptors that bind to self-proteins as though it were a foreign antigen. It's not known why this occurs. May not be due to an ineffective negative selection. Many environmental factors may be involved, but the point is we don't know why these cells go after our own cells. Like the whole idea there that hay fever or pollen or cat hair or dog hair, they're obviously not dangerous, you know, but for some reason there, a particular person's body's immune system will see them as dangerous and elicit an immune response. Hence runny nose, watery eyes, redness, soreness, sneezing, these kinds of things. Most autoimmune diseases begin to cause symptoms after puberty, and most people with autoimmune diseases are women, 2/3 of the cases. Okay, there's no known cause of any autoimmune disease. There's currently no cure for any autoimmune disease. Most current treatments involve the use of immunosuppressant medication. Approximately 1/3 of the population in North America has been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. The prevalence of these diseases has been increasing exponentially. So, what is happening? Is our environment changing, or are we changing, or are both changing? Here's just some examples there of autoimmune diseases there. There's the disease in the tissue affected. You know, there's myasthenia gravis, skeletal muscle. We saw that in 2 weeks ago. In last week's PowerPoint there. Lots of good stuff. Crohn's disease, Graves' disease, lupus. Okay, rheumatoid arthritis, attacks the joints, type 1 diabetes there. We'll deal more with diabetes when we get into digestion in a couple of weeks. You guys can have a look at these there. There's molecular mimicry. These are theories there about what we're talking about, autoimmune diseases, the hygiene theory. This is an inverse correlation between the rates of infection in population and autoimmune diseases. In countries and regions where infection rates are high, incidences of autoimmune diseases very low. Okay, lack of exposure to beneficial bacteria in childhood. Isn't that interesting? The whole idea there is that our perception of clean has been distorted by advertisers and commercials. And you think about this there, if you take a hot dog and you've just cleaned your whole house with Pine Sol and lots of chemicals, it smells like a hospital inside your house. Could you put that hot dog on a string and just walk it through your whole clean house, and then would you eat it? Well, no, you'd probably get very sick from the chemicals because our whole idea of clean has been distorted. Take another hot dog and put it on a string and walk it through your back garden, right between, your flowers you just planted, and, could you eat that? Absolutely. Soil is not dangerous. But again, please consult your doctor before eating any soil. Thank you. And it's true. The whole idea there that what is clean and what's not clean has been absolutely distorted. So lack of exposure there to beneficial bacteria. Eat a little bit of dirt when you're 5 years old, gain that immunity, right? Genetic factors, vitamin D. There's another whole thing there, is that they're giving vitamin D to rats and they're living twice as long. And they're saying there that you should be having anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 international units of vitamin D. Okay, you can get vitamin D from the sun in about 20 minutes. You can get a daily dose of vitamin C. The sun's out today, which is very strange. You know, I'm filming this there in the end of April, and we haven't really seen the sun in months. But get your vitamin D, and you may want to take some more. But again, please consult your physician. Thank you very much. Allergies, the immune system reacts to harmless antigens as though they were pathogens, right? Asthma is a form of allergic reaction involving excess histamine release. Okay, allergies can also be called hypersensitivity. Yeah, lots of good stuff there. Summary, have a read of that. More. I love it. Please enjoy your week. Go back and honestly, this is pretty heavy stuff, and you know what I mean. I went through it there, and just want you guys to take it easy and enjoy your time, and we'll see you there next week. Have a wonderful day. Take care, and bye bye.